I was in Austin with Taryn like a month ago, and the homeless population there is like bonkers. And the place where we were staying, we had to walk by like homeless towns or whatever to like get into the city.
Mhm.
And so we saw a bunch of like people talking to themselves and like all sorts. And when you hear people talk about that situation or like any homeless situation, like most of the time it comes down to like mental illness. So you have, or not a good chunk of the time. So do you guys have like people off the streets, I guess, in there, or is it people that have been, so like how does that work, right? Because you have some people that don't get brought, like they're still on the streets, and then some like, there's not really a rhyme or reason, really, is there? It's just like whether they get, I don't I don't really know what I'm asking. Do you know what I'm asking, kind of?
Our homeless population is huge,
Yeah.
especially with psychotic patients.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we have 5 different units, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, those 5 units are basically one of them. We call it the land of no code. It's a depression anxiety unit. Basically, it's called CER, Center of Emotional Regulation. Something, I don't know, something like that. They all have homes. They all go home to families.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're all good. Then there's TRC. That's the Recovery Center. 9 times out of 10, I think they pretty much have homes through too, or they really are just detoxing and they go to like residential places, so they can go to like rehabs and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's CDT, which is dual treatments, and like you have a substance problem and mental illness. They have homes. RSU and CIE, which is the facility I work in, the unit I work on, those are your psychotic units. And mine is probably the most acute one. They don't have homes. Not all of them. I shouldn't say that. So not all of them. A lot of them do, but a lot of them don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that when you hear all these other units, you hear all the other things that they suffer from, and the fact that they typically have homes to go to, and then you hear that mine don't, it's like you have to think about why. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I mean, I if I had to take a guess based off of my experience, it's because a lot of families don't want to put up with mental illness, and a lot of the times, families don't like to separate the fact that it's not the person that they like loved that's doing these things; it's their mental illness that's doing these things. So, like when I got hit in the face by one of my
Mm-hmm.
patients, it was like the weirdest feeling ever because I really liked her. Like I really liked her, and she knocked the shit out of me, dog. Like she really, and the worst part was she had requested a one-on-one from me too. Like another patient had triggered her. She started to like get aggressive. She's a big joint too. She started to get aggressive. I said, "Hey yo, are you okay?" She's like, "Can I talk to you?" So she starts going off in the seclusion room. We're talking. I'm sitting down, so she doesn't think like get like what's the word? Because you're in the seclusion room, you don't want them to think that like you're trying to be threatening towards them. But I was just trying to
Yeah.
get her away from the situation. She was about to throw hands with this other patient. Next thing you know, I know she's starting to hallucinate a little bit. I can see it. I hear it. Things she's saying. She's talking about things that don't make sense. And I go to stand up to call a code because there's no phones in the room. So I'm like, hang on 1 second. And she said something like, she said, she just hit you. You trying to fuck up with me or not, Lisa? You trying to fuck up with me or not? But the thing is, like I just said, I don't want to go against an illusion. But if she hit me, I'm like, how do we play into that? So I'm sitting here, I'm just like, she hit me, word? Like, and I'm like, grabbing my face, and I'm just like, oh yeah? And she was like, you just hit me, bow, hits me in my face. So like, I almost like shook back. She really rocked me. And then I walked out and I said, call a code. Everyone was like, huh? Because I was really calm. And I said, call a code, I got hit. That day was crazy. But the thing is, the reason why I bring up that story is like, the reason I put myself in that situation was because she needed to talk to me because she liked me and I liked her in a sense. So like, I wasn't mad at her. And she snapped from being triggered from anger, rightfully so angry, because of her mental illness. So like, families don't do that. They don't say to themselves, that wasn't so and so. That was her mental illness. It wasn't her fault that she hit me. She thought I hit her spirits. And if we were sick enough to the point where we thought that somebody hit our spirits, I'm sure we'd probably whack them too. You know what I mean? So like when
Yeah.
I remember the medical director of my facility called me that day, like the head psychiatrist in the whole hospital, and he was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Oh, my face hurts a little bit, like a little mark." Like he was like, "No," he was like, "I mean emotionally," and I was like, "I think so." I was like, you don't know how to answer that question because you're like confused. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
You haven't processed it
I've
either.
never been in a fight with someone I didn't have beef with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and you can't hit them back,
Right.
but like, I didn't want to hit her back. So it's like other family members will get angry after being repetitively hit emotionally because they say some rude shit to you. I've been called some mean things, you know what I mean? But I can brush that shit off. And they hit you, and it gets tiring. And when they don't take the medication, it gets more tiring and it causes divorces and it causes family friction to the point where it's just like they give up. And now
And
you're
they're
homeless
not
and now you're
and they're
stuck.
not trained for it either. Like
Right.
you're trained for it.
And I can walk away and say code 7 and they can get medicated and that's that. And then she gets better in a sense. They
Yeah.
can't keep employment. You know what I mean? They're like forever kind of in need of somebody to take care of them who may not want to because they're not compliant with their own treatment. Because 9 times out of 10, people return to the hospital due to not being compliant with medication.